Imagine sitting down today to play your favorite game. You have a screen, a controller, and thousands of games to choose from. But humans were playing games long before any of this existed, long before computers, long before electricity, and even before humans had written history. So, here is the mystery. What was the first game humans ever played? Was it a race, a throwing competition, a wrestling match, or something we have completely forgotten? To understand the first game, we have to travel thousands of years into the past. Imagine a small group of humans living in a world with no cities, no supermarkets, no phones, no television. Their entertainment had to come from somewhere else. For these humans, survival came first. They had to find food, they had to find water, and they had to stay away from danger. But something interesting happened. The skills they needed to survive could also become fun. Running was necessary for survival. But what if two humans started running just to see who was faster? Suddenly, survival had become competition, and competition could become a game. The same thing could happen with throwing. A stone could be a tool, but that same stone could also become a challenge. Who could throw it the farthest? Who could hit the target? And then there were children. Children don't need much to invent a game. Give them a few stones, a stick, and a little imagination, and suddenly they had a game. But there is one huge problem with finding the first game. Most of the earliest games left nothing behind. A race leaves no board. A children's game leaves no instruction manual, and a game played with words can disappear completely. So the first game humans ever played may be lost forever. But archaeologists have found something else, small objects that may have been used for games. And this is where our story changes. Because eventually, humans created games with actual boards, games with pieces, games with rules, and games that could be played again and again. And one of these games survived for thousands of years. It was discovered in the ruins of ancient Mesopotamia, and it was called the Royal Game of Ur. But what exactly were they playing? And could this really be one of the oldest games humans ever played? Thousands of years ago, in ancient Mesopotamia, people were already playing a mysterious board game. And for a very long time, nobody knew exactly how the game worked. The board had survived. The pieces had survived. But the rules were gone. The game became known as the Royal Game of Ur. It was discovered in the ruins of the ancient city of Ur, and the discovery was incredible. Humans had been playing organized board games thousands of years ago. But what did this ancient game actually look like? Imagine a strange rectangular board made from wood. It had rows of spaces. Some spaces were decorated with beautiful symbols, and it had small pieces that players could move across the board. Now came the biggest mystery. How did the players decide how far their pieces could move? The answer seems to involve something surprisingly simple: dice. But these weren't the six-sided dice we use today. They were small four-sided objects. The player would throw the dice, and the result could determine how far a piece moved. Suddenly, the game wasn't only about skill. Luck had entered the battle, and that made the game unpredictable. The players had their own pieces. They moved them along the board, and they had to make strategic decisions along the way. Should you move forward, or protect your piece, or take a risk? And this is what makes the Royal Game of Ur so fascinating. It wasn't just random. It required decisions. It required luck, and it required patience. But perhaps the most interesting thing is this. People weren't just playing to pass the time. Games could teach people how to think, how to take risks, how to lose, and how to try again. Think about how strange that is. Someone thousands of years ago could sit down, throw the dice, move a piece, and feel the exact same excitement we feel when playing a game today. But here's the problem. The Royal Game of Ur was ancient, but it probably wasn't the first game. Humans had already been playing for thousands of years before this board appeared. So, if Ur wasn't the beginning, then what came before it? And that question takes us even further back, to a time before cities, before writing, and perhaps before anyone even knew what a game was. What was the very first game? Before humans played games on boards, they played with the world around them. There were no game pieces, no colorful boards, and definitely no PlayStation. So, how did they have fun? One answer may be hiding in something incredibly simple: stones. Imagine picking up a stone and throwing it toward a target. It sounds simple, but add competition, and suddenly you have a game. Throwing games may have been among the simplest forms of human competition. The target could be a rock, a tree, or even another person. The goal was simple: hit the target. But humans didn't only throw things. They could run. They could chase each other. They could race toward a finish point, and the fastest person won. Then something even more interesting happened. People could compete over strength. Who could lift the biggest stone? Who could carry it the farthest? Who could climb the highest? And here is where games become really interesting. Many of these activities were also useful for survival. Running helped you escape danger. Throwing helped you hunt. Climbing helped you reach food. Strength helped you carry heavy things. So, were these really games? Or were they simply training? Maybe they were both. Because for early humans, survival and play were not always separate, and maybe this is where something fundamental about humans began. The desire to say, I can do it better, faster, stronger, smarter. But we still have a problem. We don't have a written record telling us what their first game was. No ancient instruction manual, no rulebook, only clues. A strange arrangement of stones, an unusual mark carved into rock, and objects that seem to have been placed exactly where someone wanted them. Could these be the remains of the first games? Maybe. But the next clue is even stranger. Because somewhere in the ancient past, someone may have created something that looked surprisingly close to a real game. And if that's true, we may be looking at one of the earliest games ever created. But what was it? So, after thousands of years of human history, can we finally answer one question? What was the first game ever played by humans? The honest answer is, we don't know. And that's not because humans didn't play games. It's because the first players left almost nothing behind. A game made from stones could disappear into the earth. A game made from sticks could rot away. And a game played with nothing but movement would leave no physical evidence at all. But we do have clues, and those clues tell us something important. Games may be almost as old as human imagination itself. The first game probably wasn't a complicated board. It probably didn't have hundreds of rules. It may have been something as simple as, who can throw this the farthest? Or, who can reach that tree first? And once two people competed, there was suddenly a winner and a loser. And that tiny moment changed everything. Because people love repeating things that make them feel something. The same race could happen again tomorrow. The same throwing contest could happen next week. And slowly, a simple activity could become a tradition. Eventually, humans began creating something even more special. They started turning games into objects. They made boards. They made pieces. They created rules. And eventually, we got games like the Royal Game of Ur. But games didn't stop there. They became part of human culture. Games became entertainment, competition, strategy, and even social connection. So maybe the first game wasn't one specific game. Maybe the first game was an idea. The idea that something ordinary could become something fun. A stone could become a target. A race could become a competition. And a few simple rules could become a tradition. And that may be why games survived for thousands of years. Because games are more than entertainment. They teach us to compete. They teach us to lose. They teach us to think. And perhaps most importantly, they give us a reason to sit together. Thousands of years later, we still do exactly the same thing. We sit down. We make a move. We hope we get lucky. And sometimes, just like humans did thousands of years ago. So maybe we'll never know the exact name of the first game. Maybe we'll never know who invented it. But one thing is almost certain. Humans have been playing for a very, very long time. And maybe the first game wasn't about winning. It was about playing together. Now it's your turn. If you were the first human on Earth to invent a game, what game would you create? Tell me your idea in the comments.